Be seated and redirect.
Good afternoon, Mr. Depp.
Hi.
Could we please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1? Mr. Depp, is this the version of the op-ed that you recognize?
Yes, ma'am. That's the one.
I would move Exhibit 1, Plaintiff's Exhibit 1 into evidence and ask that it be published to the jury.
Any objection? All right, 1 in evidence and publish.
Mr. Depp, when did you see Ms. Heard's December 18th, 2018 op-ed for the first time?
It was, presented to me by one of my team. I can't remember.
And what was your reaction when you saw it?
Shock.
Why were you shocked?
Because at that point, it had been a good solid two or so years of the accusations, of the allegations, planted firmly on my back, so something that I had to carry with me. It was clear that the more bad press, the more hit pieces that came out on me, the more of these stories of Ms. Heard and her righteous chase against me.
Objection asked and answered just now.
My prior question was about his reaction.
All right, I'll allow it.
Hurts. Yeah, a blinding hurt. It was like somebody had hit me in the back of the head with a 2x4. And as it said, I had no ability to speak prior to, because even if I had done an interview to try to explain myself, it turned into a hit piece. So my mouth was shut. And this was the opportunity where I thought, something's got to be done. It's just got to be done. I couldn't take it anymore.
When did you first learn that Disney was not going to recast you in the Pirates franchise?
It was probably 2 or 3 days after this op-ed appeared. One of my crew, again, I don't remember who, had sent me, excuse me, had sent me a piece that was in some magazine, and Sean Bailey, who was the number 3.
Objection, hearsay.
I don't know yet. I'll overrule it at this point.
Thank you.
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sean Bailey, who was the third in line, as I suppose, in the upper echelon of Disney, just basically said in the
Objection, hearsay.
Your
What
Honor,
Sean Bailey said.
this is about him
It's in
learning
an
about this.
article.
It's not for the truth.
It is the truth. She's
If
asking.
you want to approach, that's
I think you were starting to.
Yes, I'll try again. Sean Bailey was quoted as saying that...
Objection, hearsay. Objection, lack of foundation.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Mr. Depp, how did you feel when you learned that you were being dropped from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise?
It was a character that Captain Jack Sparrow was a character that I had built from the ground up, that they would but that suddenly I was guilty until proven innocent.
Up until the point that you learned that you were not going to be in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise any longer, what was your intention with respect to future Pirates movies?
The last thing that I knew from there's the producer team, there's the creative team, and there were many discussions. I, in fact, had been approached to take part in writing
Objection,
Pirates
hearsay.
6.
Mr. Depp, what was your intention with respect to future Pirates movies, aside from what you'd been asked to do?
My feeling was that these characters should be able to have their proper goodbye, as it were. A franchise can only last for so long. There's a way to end a franchise like that, and I thought that the characters deserved to have their way out of to end the franchise on a very good note. I planned on continuing until it was time to stop.
When, relative to learning that you would no longer be a part of the Pirates franchise, did you make that statement?
I think long before I made the statement, there was a very deep and distinct sense of having been betrayed by the people that I had been working with, the people that I had worked hard for, the people that I had delivered a character to that they initially despised, but somehow, even I stuck to my guns with the character and it seemed to work. So,
Do you recall when specifically you made that statement about the $300 million and the 100 alpacas?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
I believe I made that statement during a press conference in the San Sebastian at the San Sebastian Film Festival.
Can we please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 804? Mr. Depp, do you recognize this document?
As soon as my eyes go on, I hopefully will. Yes.
Mr. Depp, during your cross-examination, Mr. Rottenborn showed you a number of text messages between you and Paul Bettany. Do you remember that?
I do.
Could you please explain to the jury what your relationship with Mr. Bettany is?
Mr. Bettany and I had, we'd met while I was making a film called The Tourist in Venice, and we were, it was an instant connection. He's born and bred in the UK and has that English sort of dry, kind of obtuse, abstract sense of humor. And that was one of the things that we connected on, is taking, even if it was a difficult or unpleasant situation, we would, do our best to deal with it with humor, as opposed to just a constant complaint or whining or anything of that nature. We dealt with it with humor. Burning Ms. Heard it's directly from Monty Python, in the sketch about burning witches.
Based on your own observations, how would you describe Mr. Bettany's relationship with Miss Heard while you and Miss Heard were together?
Abominable. Ms. Heard despised Mr. Bettany, mainly because we had become such close friends, and for her he was a threat, and would take me away from her with regard to if Paul Bettany was getting the attention from me. That was a showstopper. It would cause all kinds of unpleasantries, to the point of where when we were on the island with Mr. Bettany, Ms. Heard and Mr. Bettany got into some debate over lunch, and I just remember that whenever Mr. Bettany tried to make a point, she would talk over him, and then it started to get quite rude. She got mean, and she got loud, and then I believe it was his 18-year-old boy, Ms. Heard demeaned that young man to the point of where he burst into tears and walked away, and it was at that point that I had spoken to Ms. Heard and said, that's just unacceptable. That behavior is unacceptable. You have no right to demean that boy. You cannot always be right. You should try being wrong sometime, because you might learn something. And then I asked her to, I thought it was best that she leave the island.
Could we please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 245? And Mr. Depp, I believe this is another text message with Mr. Bettany that you were shown on your cross-examination.
Oh,
Could you please describe to the jury what you are conveying to Mr. Bettany in this message?
This again this is I suppose an example of the way that I write and express myself. That is to say, you stretch your situation out to give him the understanding that you're drowning, essentially. So everything that I say here is, in fact, an impossibility for the human body. I would have been, well, I would have certainly at least had to be rushed to the hospital for a stomach pump.
Mr. Depp, what do you mean when you use the term blackout in this text message?
So there's blackout, which is you can be, a person could be wide awake and wreaking havoc, or having a giggle in a blackout and never remember it. But when you are, when you've taken the prescription medication, it knocks you out. You are certainly not well.
Why are you informing Ms. Heard that there's a book called Disco Bloodbath?
I was in a bookstore, a used bookstore, or a bookstore that had a lot of first editions and things like that, which was sort of a passion. And I saw a book called Disco Bloodbath, and I thought it was a funny. All I was saying is, and it even says at the end of my text, that's all. Disco bloodbath, you know. This is from Australia. The tip of my finger had been taken off. When you say I got my finger cut off, or I cut my finger off, or this or that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did it yourself. But no, I can't take responsibility for what I now call Little Richard, my chopped finger. The next day I went to see a specialist, a hand surgeon, and this was still in Australia. And he had recognized that my excuse for the finger being gone.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay, what the doctor conveyed to him about his thoughts on the finger injury. That's classic hearsay.